Wednesday, September 5th, 2018, Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. This morning I'm going to talk about a different kind of subject, but still to do with precious metals, sound money, but also to do with the US Constitution, with campaign finance, with what the Supreme Court ruled upon in 2010, allowing corporations to make unlimited amount of donations. I want to talk about the First Amendment, freedom of speech, but also sound money, Article 1, Section 10, which says that only gold and silver shall be used and coined as money. The Founding Fathers and what they thought about the subject of money and corporations, especially Thomas Jefferson. I think it's very important because even though I'm not a lawyer or a constitutional specialist, far from it, I've put two and two together, and yeah, of course, Americans can have the freedom of speech and the freedom to assemble, maybe like corporations, but they also have the protection of sound money in the Constitution, and we need to put those two and two together and see what's going on. Before I go further this morning to look into the markets, I like to say that for those of you who haven't yet, if you're going to subscribe to the channel, click on the red button. If you like to donate to the channel, you can support me on Patreon. The link is below in the description, and I like to thank all the existing contributors, all the existing subscribers for their support of the channel. So it's just gone past 8:30. Before I go into the Constitution, campaign, finance, and sound money, let's have a look at what the markets are doing. So right now, spot gold is at 1193.50, up about $2. The range has been 1190 to 1196 overnight. Silver is at 1413, down about 4 cents. The range has been 1408 to 1420. Yesterday, silver made a low for the year. Looked a little bit like a capitulation low. It traded down exactly to $14 as per the spot price, not the futures price. I look at the spot. Sometimes gold and silver top and bottom at different times. Personally, I think the 1160 we saw as per the spot price on the 15th of August, US time, late US time, could be the capitulation low for gold. Even though some people think it's going to go further down, maybe to 1120. And some people talk about even lower numbers. We'll have to see. So stock market yesterday, as usual, it's a bit of the opposite of gold. It starts the day really badly and then rebounds. Even though we finished down on the day, I think the Dow finished down about 50. It was down over 150 at one point. Right now, the Dow is down 104 at 25,850, so down 0.4%. S&P is down 10 or 1/3% at 2887. NASDAQ is down 25, 1/3 as well of a percent, just below 7,600. That's the NASDAQ 100 futures. The pound is down about 0.2% at 128.31. The euro continues to drift lower. That's down 1/4% at 115.54. And the dollar is virtually unchanged against the Japanese yen. It's at 111.44. Dollar is stronger against the Chinese yuan at 686, up 0.18%. So that is a little bit of a anomaly of recent activity. Whenever we've seen the dollar go up against the yuan, we're seeing gold go down. But today, actually, gold is going up against the dollar, and the dollar is still going up against the yuan. So interesting. Oil yesterday got almost 71, but it's turned around and is now just around 69. It's down 1% overnight. I haven't really seen the news of why it's moved like that. Oil. Emerging market currencies, the Turkish lira kind of stabilized. It's still below 7. The dollar is worth about 6.69 right now. Interest rates or the bond market. Well, the 10-year yield yesterday actually went up when the stock market was having a tough time. We actually went up about 4 or 5 basis points. We traded up to 290. This morning is at 289. So keep an eye on that, because usually when the markets, stock markets are under pressure, yields tend to drop. Yesterday it didn't. So keep that in the back of your mind. Italian bond yields, they have come down quite a bit since last Friday. They were at 322. They're now at 297. So that means that bond prices there have gone up. Does that mean that Italy is out of the woods? No, not yet. Why has the yield come down so much? It could be even the Italian Treasury. I think there's a story a few weeks ago that they were intervening to keep the bond market from going down too far. We know Italy still has about 65 billion euros that they need to refinance before the end of the year. So let's keep an eye on that. So now, sound money, campaign finance, corporate donations. I think these are all very important. First of all, I want to look at what Thomas Jefferson said. And I quote, "If the American people ever allow private banks to control the issue of their currency, first by inflation, then by deflation, the banks and corporations that will grow up around will deprive the people of all property until their children wake up homeless on the continent their fathers conquered. The issuing power should be taken from the banks and corporations, for that matter, and restored to the people to whom it properly belongs." So what's that got to do with campaign finance? Well, a lot of Supreme Court decisions, especially the one from 2010, and I read here, justices vote 5-4, reject corporate spending limit. It says, overruling two important precedents about the First Amendment rights of corporations, a bitterly divided Supreme Court on Thursday ruled that the government may not ban political spending by corporations in candidate elections. Okay? And then we've got another one here from 2014. Supreme Court strikes down limits on federal campaign donations. The Supreme Court's divisive decision Wednesday striking down a Watergate era limit on campaign contributions was the latest milestone for conservative justices who are disassembling a campaign finance regime they feel violates free speech. So they're using the First Amendment as an argument. And am I against the First Amendment? Of course not. But I'm also against the fact that the monetary system in the US is unconstitutional. We have a central bank controlled by corporations. The Federal Reserve is a hybrid. It's private and public. The First Amendment, of course, says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. I guess what the Supreme Court justices are arguing, that corporations are like people peaceably assembling. That might be so, but the other one thing they forget, though, is that Article 1 in the preamble of the Constitution says, Article 1, Section 10, and I read, "No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque and reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts." So there you go. And the Federal Reserve, which was passed just before Christmas Eve, when most of the senators and congressmen were away for Christmas in December 23rd, 1913, is, in my opinion, unconstitutional. You've given the power to issue money to a corporation, to corporations, to the banking corporations. So what does it do? Well, especially after 2008, when the Federal Reserve, via the US government, bailed out big corporations, the banks, AIG, and indirectly other corporations, because these corporations provide, these banking corporations provide free money almost in the last 10 years to the big corporations, so they can buy back their stock and create even more of a bubble and use that money to campaign for and buy politicians. This combination of how can I say, fiat money that is unconstitutional and unlimited corporate donations is a cocktail that makes this inequality even worse. And that's why I think before anything is done about campaign finance, I think it would be great if these Supreme Court justices would argue in favor, of sound money. They're ready to argue for the First Amendment, which I can understand. But what about the sound money and protecting the American people? The Constitution clearly states that it's the people that control the issuance of money. And how do you do that in the constitutional system? Well, you can, as an individual, you can go to your local mint, any mint. That's what you used to be able to do. If you're a miner, or if you just have some gold or jewelry, you can go to the mint, have them melted down and coin it into money or silver. And that's how it was created. That was the intention of the Constitution. The intention was not for a private central bank to issue money out of thin air. So that's why, yes, of course, the freedom of speech is very important, and the First Amendment of the Constitution, but so is the soundness of the money. It should not be controlled by corporations and banks. And what it's done now is because of the fact that the Federal Reserve has bailed out the corporate banking elites and made money very abundant for them. They have access to that money. John Doe or Jane Doe, somewhere out, in the middle of the United States or wherever, they don't have access to, Federal Reserve discount window, but the corporations and the banks do. And that's why I think it needs to be looked at. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, share it, subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet, and you can also follow me on Steemit, DTube, and on Twitter. I'll talk to you later. Take care. Bye.